I'd like to call the City Council meeting for April 15th, 2013 to order. Invocation. Mr. Campbell.
As we get ready to have an invocation, just ask everyone if they would just take a moment of silence. I don't know how many people have heard, but with the tragedy in Boston, all those persons who are running the Boston Marathon and the explosions that they've had there and the persons who have been hurt, and also they announced on the way when I got here that one of the persons who passed was an 8-year-old. So a child, so we do know one child has been confirmed that died during those explosions. So you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what tomorrow brings, but sometimes we take for granted all things we do. We don't know how precious life is, but let's at least take a moment of silence and pray for them, and then I'll give an invocation. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you how you continue to bless us and keep us. We thank you, God, how you continue to watch over us. We ask you to continue to watch over us. Bless this meeting. Bless our leaders that are here today to come together to continue to make the correct decisions for our city. Watch over and strengthen them. Give them the courage they need. We ask you to continue to bless our first responders. We understand all these tragedies. Sometimes we take for granted the persons who have to go in there no matter what, who they have families also, but they go in to try to make sure that we're safe. So we ask you to bless our communities and our first responders and also watch over and take care of our community. Be with all of us. Be with all of our leaders. Be with our mayor. Continue to bless us and keep us. And we don't always understand, God, why things happen or why these things go on, why people want to hurt other persons, but we know that in the end, you've got it all under control. So we'll continue to trust you to continue to watch over us and take care of us. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Zastavny.
Here.
Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Gill. Here. Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Council President Sellers.
Here.
Council Vice President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect all 9 council members are here.
Approval of the agenda.
I was looking through the packet. Do we have all the ordinances that are supposed to be in front of us?
No, I have them here in the time period that I was asked to place that on the agenda last week, and I had other requirements of completing, so I was not able to get those ahead of time, even though the topic is on the agenda. I have them, unfortunately, on the agenda.
Okay.
I apologize for that.
No, I didn't know if I was missing it. Perfect.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Minutes to be approved.
I got the minutes for Wednesday, March 27, 2013 for our workshop. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the council workshop meetings for March 27th, 2013. Are there any questions or corrections?
I'll be abstaining due to my absence.
I will also.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
And we have the minutes for our regular council meeting for April 1st, 2013. I move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the common council workshop proceedings for March 27th, 2013. Any corrections or comments?
I'll be abstaining.
Same
here.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Claims to be approved.
Requesting approval of general civil city claims in the amount of $470,960.16. If there are no questions.
I have a question. Under Common Council, we have Townhome fencing, insurance, repair to fence, $3,600. Said, less than insurance deductible.
Was there some
Somebody hit a
damage
fence?
done? That's what I'm thinking.
I'm
Somebody hit
not
a
sure where
fence?
the fencing occurred, but I think our deductible is 5,000, so we just
Wonder
paid
what came
the...
into the council.
Because we have the insurance.
Yeah, all of ours is under.
We have property and casualty.
But we don't know
insurance.
where it was for?
I do not. I can get that information.
Okay,
Is that all you had, Dennis?
that's it.
Amy, I have a question under the mayor. On this Republic Bank, we have for $524.07. It says Board of Public Works supplies. Should that not be under Board of Public Works, not the mayor's office, if it's their supplies? I don't know what it is, or,
Says water for conference room.
well, water don't cost 500.
Yearly supply of water. No.
I'm not sure what that consists of.
I mean, if it's lights and things, I mean, it needs to be paid out of Board of Public Works, but I don't know without seeing the claim what it,
Right. I can research that, and if it is truly for BPW, I can appropriate it there versus out of the mayor's budget, if it makes sense to do so.
Maybe bottled water.
well, I saw the receipt for the bottled water, if it was from
Well-
Rural King.
Well, I'm just saying they don't have a water dispenser in the conference
No,
room.
she buys it's usually the Rural King water. She buys the 24 packs of water and keeps it in the mayor's, actually, their little room back there.
Were you done, Lisa?
Yes.
I had a question for you also, Amy, on page 11, under grant, the Fort Security. Is that the accurate figure, $112,000?
Yes,
The boat
and that
training?
was 100% funded through the grant. That's just the disbursement. No civil.
Is that joint training with, is that just for us? You know?
I believe it was police and fire, but I think there were also, some of that's passed through for Clarksville and some other,
Okay, that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
for
believe
other,
so.
for other entities. That's why I was curious. Okay.
Have a motion?
Second.
I can't make a motion. I said, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
To approve it as is?
As is.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims as they are. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Can I, that question? Amy, as Dennis asked about the insurance claim,
yes.
we have those on occasion on where we're paying for vehicles and things. Can I ask that when we have those, that we get some information about the employee that was involved and kind of what happened, just so we know, because I've had the same questions many times. Thank you.
I'm sure I can do that.
Parks claims in the amount of $59,083.95.
Amy, on page 2, under Ruby Yacht, is that slip storage for the river stage? And the reason I ask that is it's for April, but I don't know, I'm not sure exactly when they brought the barge back to Spring Street, but I didn't know if this was maybe for March or something. Are you familiar with that? It's 2,800.
No, unfortunately, I'm not.
Would you kind of check on that and just follow up and just, I'm sure it's probably some type of rental, but since if it's for April, we didn't use it, for all of April, because it's been a week or so. But if, it might be March. I don't know, maybe we pay in the arrears or something, I'm not sure.
I'll check on that.
Thank you.
Amy, you may not know, but I'm just making the assumption that on page 3, all that's on the visa for all the different things like Subway come back in, all for the Easter egg hunt, $40. Were those for the prizes for the adult? Do you know? Huh? It was?
That's what I assumed. I didn't ask. I'm sorry.
I would assume
Wow,
so.
okay.
I can check.
I'll make a motion to approve the parks claim.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Parks claim in the amount of $59,083.95. Will you be checking on those
Yes.
things? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Report of the clerk.
This time I don't have anything.
Okay. Department head reports, Mr. Merkley.
At City Council meeting, the council approved a new position in the law department, that being paralegal, and I know that it was placed in the existing pay grade 6, the minimum being 33.9, the maximum being, I believe, 43, the midpoint at 39. The existing policy that was implemented last year by the City Council was that the administration can only hire someone at the minimum. I have an individual who is very qualified for that position, and would like to give her what she's requesting, which is 36, which is 2 above the minimum, but 3 below the midpoint. It would require
Could you
council.
repeat that
36
last?
even?
The minimum was
30.
how much?
The minimum was 33.9, the
The
midpoint
mid.
was 39.
Okay.
She's asking for 36,000, which is still below the midpoint. Under the old policy, the administration could have went up to the midpoint, but the existing policy says we have to have council approval, and I would request that approval, so I'd like to get this individual in the office as soon as possible.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the paralegals pay at 36, correct? Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Chief Grimm.
First of all, the training was Louisville Metro Fire, Indiana DNR, New Albany Fire, Clarksville Fire, Jeff Police. So it was a mutual. Second of all, I know Connie asked me before the meeting about Thunder. With the recent events in Boston, we are reevaluating our Thunder plan. If you all have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to call us and let us know. Josh Lynch and Glenn Jackson are my 2 Thunder guys. They're putting 12 and 16-hour days in this week to try to get it done. We may revamp our Thunder plan. I had the news media that has already called me, and I have told them, yes, we may change it, but we may not tell you, because, there are certain things that they just don't need to know if we change our security plan. So we are looking at it, and just so you all are aware, every police officer works that day. I think Parks Department is donating some employees for time to help with some roadblocks, so we can put more officers in the event area. Every asset that we have will be used that day. So, again, if you all have questions, please ask. So, yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, Chris, do we have a dog or something that can go around and, I know we can't physically keep eye on the garbage receptacles, but do we have a dog that's available to us that can go around?
We have, and I don't, not to get into too much of what
I
we
know.
do,
I
because
just
a
wanna
lot of
let
that,
you know.
we do have working relationships with with several state and federal detection units that will be here. They're here every year. It isn't something new that we've done. I talked to Glenn Jackson, who's a master trainer, and asked him about the canine thing tonight. The problem with that is sometimes those dogs don't mingle well with a lot of people, and the last thing we want is the liability of having those dogs in the area. So it's going to boil down to vigilance on the part of the people that are down there and of the officers that are there, and just to report suspicious activity and hopefully take care of it. So I'll get on to what I'm here for. Back in January, I believe, we all had a sit-down meeting about school safety that was graciously hosted by you all. From that meeting, it was requested of myself to look at our SRO program, which is School Resource Officer Program, and to see if there was the ability to add an extra school resource officer to the middle schools. Currently, we have 1 full-time in the high schools and 1 full-time that bounces between both middle schools. And we have no full-time school resource officers that are in the elementary schools. Rusty Settles, who's the middle school SRO, does do a lot of stuff in the elementary schools also. So he is stretched very thin. Dr. Mellon, along with the Greater Clark County School Board, about 4 weeks ago, did sit down and did draft the new contract between the city and the school corporation, and in the contract, they have asked for a third full-time school resource officer to be placed in the middle school. So that would give us one in the high school and two permanently in both middle schools here in the city. I think you guys have the contracts in front of you, and also the the letter that I sent to you all. Greater Clark County School has pledged $34,500 towards the new officer's salary of $41,154, which is the starting salary for a first-year patrolman. To do that, what I would like to do is hire another officer. I don't want to take officers off the street to relocate them somewhere off the street. Currently, I have 74 officers. This would take that number to 75 and would leave my street levels the way they are. I think everybody had questions when we were named the 88th scariest place to live. Those were 2011 numbers. 2012 numbers are down. We do have more officers on the street than we ever have, and we want to keep it that way. We don't want to sacrifice street safety, but we also don't want to, in the same sense, also don't want to sacrifice the safety of our kids in our schools. So my request from you all this evening is to approve the contract. I know that has to go to the Board of Public Works for final approval, but to approve hiring another officer to get our numbers to 75, so in August we can place another resource officer in our school system.
Chief, I have a question. What's the process, I guess, that you go through with the police department in determining, if we hire a new officer, will that new officer be in the SRO program?
Probably not.
Or
Probably not. That new officer will replace somebody that's on the street. And what you get into is, we hired 3 officers last year, I believe in February. The first of this month of April, they are just now on their own. So it takes that long to hire, train, and they go through the academy, and they go through an extensive program here at inside the police department with training officers to get them to where they're able to go out, and it takes a year plus to get them out there. So in August, what we'll do is my levels will go down a little bit on the street, but in anticipation that number won't change, because I will have an officer to replace that person with.
Currently, the officers who work in the schools, is that the amount that's reimbursed to us from the school system?
No, actually, this is a different contract. The old contracts were a little different. One was a little more and one was less. And those actually are expiring, I think, if I can find it here real quick, I'll let you know what they were. This one was put into place in 2011. This is for River Valley and Parkview. $31,900. And then for the high school, which was done in 2011, $37,100. So what we did is we took the 3 schools and evened it out to where it came to $34,500. So that's how they came to that number. It used to be based on a percentage, but because they felt the school corporation was more comfortable setting a standard rate, and it's $34,500 and base is $41,154 for a first-year patrol officer.
Chief, during the summer, these school resource officers, did they roll out onto the streets during the summer?
Yes, they will take on various jobs that we have in the city. Actually, this summer, due to the potential of the police department moving, actually one or both will be assigned to the evidence room to try to get that ready to be moved, which is a daunting task. But yeah, they may pick up. One of the officers, Rusty Settles, works Safety Town. He does the Safety Town program during the summer. Lieutenant Brian Cleveland worked the street last year during the summer. So yeah, they rotate into the street and help out on the street and help out where they're needed for summer programs.
Chief, I've been trying to keep track a little bit about the state and how they're working on it, and I know it's going back and forth on a lot of different things, but That's a concern. One of my concerns is the fact that 34.5 is probably a third. And I think that the school system needs to really pay quite a bit more because not only are they getting an officer, they're getting a patrol car. I mean, they're getting, in which the
Right.
control car is used for traffic and everything else. So, between the state really not, I don't know how much they are going to support us financially. I know there's a lot of discussion on that.
Right.
Plus, I think 34.5 is really, I think it needs to be probably quite a bit more than that because of they're not just getting a rookie officer, like you said, they're getting a patrolman.
Well, and I
They're
think,
getting a
right.
car, fuel, insurance.
I agree, and I think part of that is they're under budget constraints as well as everybody is. So I think that was a number, they took the numbers from the prior two contracts and averaged them out and added one. So I think that's how they came to that number, so.
I mean, 31,000 is a pretty, I mean, even that number, or 32,000,
Yeah, 31.7 was,
is a pretty good deal
oh yeah.
on their part.
But again, what price do you put on safety for our kids? So,
Well, that'd be a question we could ask them too.
Right.
They're the ones that put the number on it, not us.
right, but we're the ones that have to supply the officers, so.
I understand, but the last thing I want to do is take officers off the street of the city.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to avoid that by hiring an additional officer, so.
I think my personal opinion is, I think the state needs to come up with more money. I mean,
And hopefully
the
they
state
will.
and the school system needs to come up with a lot more, with
Right.
more than 34.5.
Hopefully the state will pass the grant program and we can hire more officers and put officers in the elementary schools.
Yeah.
That would be great. And our plan is with the two middle school officers is to divide the elementary schools up, by geography and which would give them four for one and three for another, and have them go to those elementary schools also. So there is a president in the elementary schools that they get to know that one particular officer. So that's our game plan right now, so.
I feel like, the number that has been thrown around, it seems to be pretty well in between what we've done or what the council has done in the past, what the city's done in the past. And I think it's important we got to remember that, while this is going to replace an officer that'll be dedicated to the schools, we're still gaining that extra resource with having an extra officer. If there's an event and we need an extra person, that's a resource we'll be able to use. That's a resource we'll be able to use in the summer. And,
And I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room is we still have to cut $2.4 million out of our budget.
Right, no, let me get to that.
Yeah.
I have two officers retiring this year. I have a 20-plus year captain who retires at the end of this month. And I also have a 20-year lieutenant who retires at the end of August, which is actually Brian Cleveland, one of my SROs. Those two officers are in the drop program. Bruce Wilkerson, who's the captain, will be gone at the end of this month. You're going to lose a captain's salary and a 20-year salary from that also, and you're going to lose a lieutenant's salary and a 20-year longevity and everything from that one too. Now, those two will be replaced by their officers, but they'll be replaced at officers at $41,154, not at their current 20-plus year salary. So we did the numbers for the rest of the school year, or for the rest of this year with the extra officer and the school system paying the amount that they're going to pay for the rest of this year, and we come out with a plus number that we can probably actually cut from our salary budget for this year.
What about next year? Because we'll probably have to cut
It'll be lower. Our salary will go lower because you're losing two 20-year guys.
How much is their salary? You said you've worked on it. How much are their salaries come to total with everything?
I don't have that in front of me. It would be, 20 longevity, a base pay at 3 years is 45. They're probably $54,000 a year.
Chief, I support hiring two officers right now, or when the process is, but just with the state trying to figure out what they want to do with the $2.4 million that we have to cut, plus this dollar amount, the school system probably needs to look at this. I'd rather give this a little time. I know you don't want to hear that, but we're still paying, they need to come up with more money.
Well, and hopefully the school corporation, the state, will come up with a grant program that will help fund it. The problem is, and the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take to get this person in place.
Right.
Do we have a hard figure on how much it's going to cost per year to have this? I mean, with everything included, maintenance and...
It really depends on the officer and how many years seniority he has to, get that number, but you got 20,000 in a car.
Well, then, do we have anybody that's communicating with the school board that will,
I have,
that
lately.
can negotiate this?
Oh, and there's...
I mean, I know Dennis brought up
That's my question.
wanting to...
Chris, is this, I don't see how long this lasts.
I don't think it is and I don't have, to be honest with you, I don't think I have the, yes, I do.
It says 2013-14 school year and thereafter during each school year with a maximum number of days per year of 180. I've pretty much scanned
Right.
through this. I don't see where,
I don't think that there is I don't think there is a time limit on it. I think
Is there a
and I don't think there's a penalty for pulling out of it on either side.
is there a penalty? I understand
Oh, I
that.
understand that, but I think it might need to be reevaluated annually or or every 2 years, just because of the pay, because we don't know. Mhm.
I mean, normally there would be a percentage of increase in here, even if it's cost of living or whatever.
But and we've had a school resource officer at 31-7 for, how long has Rusty been in middle schools? 99. Yeah, since 1999, at
Yeah.
31-7.
Yeah, and we've not had tax caps except for the past two.
But it's never been, but our salaries have been,
I agree, but now maybe it's the time to look at changing that.
Chief, would it be a problem with the two retirees, whatever your schedule is, get them replaced? On this third SRO person, kind of hold up, let us research it. Senator Grooms was here, I probably should ask him, I forgot.
Right.
But kind of get some information to see where we're going on this so we can, we can make a better decision. I know you don't want to hear that.
right,
but
and that's up to you guys.
the
'cause
two
again,
guys
it
you have to
takes-
hire right now or
It takes a
soon.
while.
I
I mean-
understand. But, and then just table this until we gather more information to see if the state is going to, see what kind of numbers they're going to give. They may give it to the school system and offset that, or they may give it to us. I don't know if they know.
I don't think they do,
Okay.
to be honest
so
with you.
I guess I make a motion. You don't need this doesn't include the two
Let's do that separate. I'll talk about those next, the two that are retiring.
I've got a comment real quick. I'm listening to this conversation, and I remember in December that, after Newtown, it was extremely important to this council to have a meeting with the school board because we cared about the children. And then the school board comes back with a proposal that's going to pay 85% of a salary for a school resource officer.
That's not true.
That's not 85%.
It's 85% of the salary.
No,
Of a base pay,
Of the
Of the
base
base
salary, that's
pay.
what I said. I said salary, correct?
That's
It's
fine.
85% of the salary.
base pay.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah, base pay, not
what more
salary.
does the school board need to do? I mean, we called a meeting for them, they came back to us with a proposal, now we're saying that's not enough. If it was important enough then to call a meeting, and they've given us their proposal, I think
the state has stepped up and are looking into funding some resource officers. They're looking at,
they've looked at a lot of things. That doesn't guarantee anything.
Well,
My
no.
question was, it was important enough then to call a meeting that we had to dig down to the bottom of how we make it safer, and the school board answered us. This is how you do it.
I think what we called a meeting for was to see, because the council, I'll speak for myself,
Well,
the
you're the one who
council,
called it.
I did call it. The council really had no dialogue with the school board or with the police department, with us, about what was going on with school safety. And I felt like, and I know I called a few members, to open some dialogue, to get some communication, not only to find out about police officers, Brian, but to find out what emergency factors were in place and we learned a huge amount that day. And it really did open some dialogue. I'm glad they've come back to us. But we didn't come in and say, hey, we want to place an officer in your school.
Well, I didn't say we did, but I think that the reason for that meeting was to find out what we've done and what we can do in the future. And I think the answer from the school board is this is what we can do in the future. My question would be is, if we didn't plan on doing anything then I think we could have got the same information from our chief of police. I don't necessarily know that we needed to go to the school board.
I don't
we
think
could've got the
anybody's
same
saying that
information
we
in that
don't want to
meeting at
do
you.
anything.
Well, I
hear anyone say no. Yeah.
No.
Well, I would just ask that whatever motion is made, I would just ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
And I think the state's going to do what the state's going to do, whether they pass the grant program, and then we can apply for it after we put this in place. And I understand, we've been crunching over budget numbers for the police department since the circuit breakers came in. I understand that. But I think, what price do you put on having an officer in the schools?
But Chief, we didn't put this price on that.
I know you didn't.
They did.
They did.
But and in our discussions, I found out that we were only getting 31.7 for an officer with, I don't know how many years on the department, but that's probably about a third of actual cost if you include the car, and I think we need to...
But here's
we need to work with them a little more
Here's
on
what
that.
you get into. Okay, either I have an officer there that's experienced, or he's on the street and experienced.
Right.
Whether they're paying 80% of his salary or 80% of his salary of a first-class patrolman that's on the street, I think it's six of one, half dozen the other. They're paying 80% of an officer's salary, whether it's the lieutenant that's at the school or it's the patrolman that's out there around the street.
Repeat that comment.
That they're paying 80% of...
They're not paying 80%.
They are paying 80%.
They're paying
Of the base
80%
salary.
of a rookie.
Well,
In the previous
3 years is only 45. It only goes up to 45. What's 34.5 of 45?
Right, but that's not...
70%?
Right.
No, I'm just
In the
talking-
previous contracts, I know Ms. Conlon looked this up for us, it wasn't the base pay, it was base pay plus all
The one contract was.
health insurance, it included everything, and which would include their retirement, I guess, all the benefits that they receive. Yes, it was.
No, I'm
that's
not,
what
I'm not
it
saying
was.
no to you, I'm just saying no to this whole conversation.
Yeah, well, we have to look at the financial obligation, that's to the taxpayers, I'm sorry, but
And I would think if the taxpayers saw that they could get a police officer in their school and the school board was going to pay 85% of their base salary, I think that people would be marching on the front door
And these
saying,
taxpayers
hire
are
it.
paying taxes to go to the school board and to us. It's the same
It's the
taxpayers
same money.
paying
It's
dollars.
pass-through money.
I really understand what you're saying, however, we're confusing the 80%.
right.
They're
You're,
getting 80%
regardless
of
of
a
whether you're
rookie.
paying 80% of a lieutenant or a captain or whatever, what I'm saying is, of a new officer's salary, it is
Right.
85%. Whether that new officer goes to that school or he goes on the street to patrol McDonald's wherever, it is 85% of that base salary which the school board is willing to pay to add a new officer.
The prior
That's what I'm saying. I'm not making the argument that it's 85%
But
of
even that is
his lieutenant's
misleading
salary.
because there's benefits,
Right.
there's other
Health insurance,
expenses.
I'm not arguing
There's a
that.
car, there's a computer.
So what's the
there's-
price? What's the price that you put on it? What's the price that you put on it? Is it 65,000?
Well, no,
Is it
that's why we would
85,000?
like to discuss it.
The prior contract states, the school corporation shall pay to the city of Jeffersonville 75% of salary benefits for that police officer signed this agreement up to an amount not to exceed $31,900. Not to exceed. That's salary, benefits, clothing.
But I'll tell you, in '99, that may have been a little more realistic.
It's really not the officer, we're trying to, it's, what the,
I want to help get this done,
right.
but I don't think it's,
I can tell you right now, I don't think you're going to get any more money out of the school board because they're pinched just like the rest of us are. It's not,
let me ask you a question about this. Would it be possible to have officers in the school without a car?
Without a car, no, because they can't transport prisoners, they have no response.
Plus they do some traffic.
They do traffic control, they let the buses out, they work accidents
need
in
a
the parking lots.
Nothing, he didn't say anything.
But when the school board made this decision, I was back here trying to read Dr. Mellon's lips, they feel that they are paying way more than half of the salary, correct?
Right.
Is that what you're back?
If you don't mind, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
the shame of the whole thing is, we're trying to do something great for kids, to keep our kids safe. And we, as a school corporation, went to our board and we had consulted with cost factors. I mean, if you want $5,000 more or whatever it is, to me, you can't put a price on this.
Right.
And our
Thank you.
school board has made a commitment to say, we want to protect our kids. And it was our understanding that 34.5 was well over half the price of an officer's salary and benefits. If you take a top officer making $54,000, plus throw his benefits on top of it, We're talking about paying 50% of even your top paid officer salary and benefits. So we didn't come into this trying to lowball the city and say we don't want enough money from you. We thought we came in with a genuine, fair 50-50 deal. Now the car and all that, I mean, I guess if the officer's going to be available to us for 180 days, and then you break down the vehicle cost and the cost of his computer and the cost of, then I just don't know. To me, if you want to come back with something, I guess I can bring it back to the board, but I just feel that we entered into this, and my board was 100% supportive of it, with the idea that we were trying to be fair and enter into 50-50 partnerships with you. Charlestown, we entered into a similar agreement with Charlestown. We have a same 50-50 kind of arrangement with the Charlestown PD to add a SRO up in Charlestown. So we're trying to do what we think is fair. In terms of the state, can't count on anything coming out of the state. And our feeling was, if we want to commit, if we think this is important enough, I told my board, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. Now, if the state decides to put some level of grant support toward it that can reduce our obligation, and that obligation would reduce, at least the legislation I read, would reduce both of our cost factors equally.
Right.
Then that's great for everyone. But we can't enter into something with the state, and it could be that nothing passes. So we wanted to make sure that we were paying for our 50% or more as it relates to salary and benefits of the officer, and we did that through all three positions that we're asking for. Officer Cleveland, Officer Settles have been outstanding. They're great with our kids. They're great with our community. We couldn't ask for a better partnership. So it's my hope that and I would not have a problem, by the way, in revisiting on an annual basis the cost factors. So in other words, you asked in the agreement, how often will this be? I have no problem if to make this work, we revisit on an annual basis.
We're going through union negotiations right at this moment, so
Sure.
those could change.
So maybe you agree, maybe the motion would be that you approve it for a year, subject to an annual evaluation related to the effectiveness and the financial impact. Because we decided we had to cut almost $3 million out of our budget, and we decided that it was a priority, and we were going to find a way to make it work. So I hope that you'll consider that.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Wait a second.
I didn't hear the question.
Wait,
Is there a motion?
I didn't see it.
who made the motion?
I
Can you
did.
do it again?
The motion was to, basically what Dr. Mellon had suggested, approve pending the annual review.
And I'll second that.
Are there any questions or comments?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned where you thought you had where you could, through the savings, help offset this. I know that Amy's been working with departments to try to cut 10%. Have you been able to do that?
That discussion has just come up this week. I mean, that's just that's...
Amy and I believe we have hit the magic number, okay? We've got 2.4 million out of general fund. That last week, weekend. This week, we won't be adding and subtracting, but this week, we're going to sit down with the department heads and go over what we're proposing as the 10% cut, and then hopefully we'll have something for you all to consider and move forward next week.
And I believe this just adds to those cuts that I think Amy's already found. So, and we'll go over those with her when we sit down with her this week and show her what the numbers that we found, so.
Well, I guess my question goes to is, I think we had been counting on some of the retirement for those cuts.
Correct, and that'll still be, that's where that will come from. That number, that will still come from those retirements. Because you are getting a significant amount of pay decrease when you go to a first-year officer. So you will see, that's where you'll see the savings out of the 100 series is from retirement.
I'm just concerned about approving additional dollars when we don't know what our cuts are yet. That's what's going through my head.
And I think she's got them. We just haven't had a chance to sit down and look at it all yet.
Hey,
so.
on the motion that was passed is, because I want to give the chief the freedom to move forward on the other two, the SRO.
This is only SRO, right?
This is only SRO.
This is only the SRO, and
This
I'll,
is just for the
Mike,
office.
I misunderstood.
if you'll do that one, then I'll bring up the other, and then y'all can do that in a separate, if that's okay. We'll just do that separately.
The only thing that I think needs to be put into this is for it to be evaluated every year.
And I don't see a problem with that.
We're
And I'll-
terrible about, from the 99, not,
Absolutely.
Evaluating
And we pulled them out and we're
14
like,
years.
wow, these haven't been done since then. So, and that's why we, when all this came up, that we were under the same
Well, and then
pretense that, yes, these need to be reviewed, so.
Dr. Mellon made that suggestion.
Right.
earlier. It came
That was
from
in my
him,
motion.
so.
That was a part of the
So-
motion.
So the motion is to hire, agree to hire, but to be reviewed annually. Is that?
yeah.
Right.
And again, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I guess roll call.
Councilperson Smith,
No.
Councilperson Zastobny,
No.
Councilperson Payne,
Yes.
Councilperson Gill,
Yes.
Councilperson Glover,
Yes.
Council Vice President Julius,
Yes.
Councilperson Owen,
Yes.
Councilperson Samuel,
No?
Council President Sellers.
No.
Four to five. 5-4, rather. 5-4,
Okay.
passed.
Thank you all. I'll get it. Thank you all very much. I think you're doing a great benefit to the school corporation. The second thing that was in my letter to you all was the hiring of the two retirees. We are currently in the process of hiring for Bruce Wilkerson, whose last day is April 31st, to hire for his position. Originally, how we had always done this was the day he retires, we'd start the process. 3 months down the road, we'd have our applicant to hire. But we changed that up. We started the application process earlier, so we knew the day that he left, we knew who was going to fill that position. What I would like to do is, I know Brian Cleveland is leaving August 31st is his last day, July 31st, August 31st. When's Brian's? July 31st. What I would like to do is put off hiring for Captain Wilkerson until June 1st, but hire for Lieutenant Cleveland in June also. And also would hire the school resource officer in June. And the reason why is the next police academy class is in July. So if I hold off and hire for Lieutenant Cleveland, who leaves at the end of July, I can't get that officer into the police academy until October or November. So it helps us keep people in. I don't think there's any doubt that Lieutenant Cleveland's leaving. I know that he'd leave about $100,000 on the table from his drop money if he decided to stay, and I believe he's got another job lined up anyway. So I don't think there's a fear of him not leaving at the end of July. So
So we have one leaving in April, correct, this month?
I have one leaving this month, which is a captain. I would put off hiring for that captain until June 1st.
So we save that salary
We
for
save
May.
that salary, but then we're going to have to come forward a little bit on Lieutenant Cleveland's salary and hire that one in June too, which would be June and July, and then he would effectively be gone. And those all figured into our numbers too when we were doing the savings, like Councilman Samuels asked about. We figured that into there also about doing it that way. And then we'd hire for the SRO. They would probably be hired June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as long as we could get those hired then. And let me tell you, the Merit Commission did all of our hiring procedures, and this group of applicants that we have right now tested the highest of any applicant pool in the country. So the median to even get to the next level was an 87% on the test before they could even get interviewed. That's how well they all tested. So we have a great applicant pool right now. So we want to get these folks in and get them going. So my next request would be to hire these officers in June, all three in June.
And you say the academy starts in July?
July, end of July.
End of July?
July
Okay.
27th, July 26th, 22nd.
So that gives you roughly 45 days to get
That
them
gives us
hired
45
and
days to
in
get
the
them
academy?
hired, get them through perf, get their uniforms for the academy, get them some training here before they go, and then they would leave. They'd be there July, August, September, October. They'd come back in October. They'd go through our 3-month FTO program, October, November, so they would be on the street in January of next year. Hopefully, as long as they did.
And you check the numbers, and this all fits in with your current...
This all fits, we figure these numbers in with the savings that we can generate from the school corporation with the extra SRO and the retirements.
I'll make a motion to pass that.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to pass hiring the 2 new officers plus the resource officer.
I have a question. You mentioned captain a couple times in different rank. Are we eliminating a rank position, or are you just saying the fact that longevity is going to be low?
His captain spot will not be filled. Lieutenants is another subject, and I've had some meetings with some contract people, and we've kind of discussed that too on how to change that. So
That's from the contract before we eliminated that position, right?
Right.
as of the contract before, when this captain retires, we aren't below where we have to be per the last contract. So yes, his captain's position will not be filled.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get that contract to you in the morning.
Okay. Les, just make sure that
Yes, Ms. Darren, sorry.
What you have before you is ordinance 2013 OR4. This was passed on the first reading, and I would like to request approval on the second and third. It takes care of the $245,000 budget cut to the Parks Department, and it moves the budgeted dollars from several non-reverting police and parks into newly established funds for each department.
I'd just like to make a comment before we vote on this. The very first line item there, the Board of Public Works, $87,400. I think I mentioned this once before, and I just want to make sure the council understands what that is. That used to be some of the funds related to the communication director, and it was moved to the Parks Department. But also, now we're looking to put it back to the Board of Public Works. Once it's in the Board of Public Works budget, they have the ability to release other contracts or approve other contracts with that money there. So I know some of the council was upset on the Pro Media contract or other contracts the Board of Public Works has approved. So just keep in mind, if we do move that'd be available to them for other contracts without prior approval from the council.
Just the 87.4, correct?
87.4.
Just that particular Fund 101.
It's a 300 series.
It's a 300 series.
Yes, sir.
I was talking Fund 101 total is 87.4, so that's what you're saying, Ed?
Yeah.
And that's supposed to offset the Pro Media contract?
No, the money had to be in place before, otherwise it wouldn't be a valid contract.
Yeah, they couldn't have gotten a contract.
Do we want to pull that out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just pulling that
Where
out.
did
satisfies that.
Where did the money come from before for the contract?
I don't know.
They said they had money within their budget.
Okay. Wouldn't we replace that money with what we saved on the communications director? It's kind of filled that void?
No, because they already have that money budgeted.
Yeah, it's already, I don't know where they got it.
I only mentioned because it was a point of contention. How much control does council want to have over the Board of Public Works funds? Do we want that to be there or not? But, I'm comfortable with everything else.
So can we approve 2013 OR4 and leave out the 300 series of 87.4 is what you're thinking, or what you're talking about?
Yep.
That 87.4, is that for Pro Media, is that what that's for?
I believe that was Pro Media and the prior communication director's salary. I think those were the budgeted dollars for those two items.
That came from what, Parks?
That came from the Parks, yes, their levied fund 204.
thought it was, I didn't think it was 87, Les. I thought it was 50-something thousand dollars. That don't sound right. I thought it was 50-something thousand with communication and...
Let me just say this, though, too. If we don't move it today, it doesn't mean we can't move it tomorrow. If
Right.
they ask and say, hey, we're short on something, you know, if
Yeah.
we're short on some funds for a contract, we could absolutely move it then.
I don't, that number, I mean, I don't, 87, I have no idea what it is.
I'll just make a motion to pass 2013 OR4 on the second reading, but I want to eliminate just the 300 series, the 87-4, and then if there's any question down the road, we can address it. But the numbers really doesn't work, and even the council says it just, you know.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to pass ordinance 2013 OR4 on the second reading, removing the 87-4 from the 300 series, I guess from the Parks or Board of Public Works. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The 80s,
This is done by Monica.
Okay.
What I had suggested was Monica full media contract.
that 87,400 is actually coming from the 101, the 45,400 and the 42,000 just below. That's what makes up that 87,400.
Okay. I think what that does, that includes the full media contract, the printing cost and the mailing cost of the city's network.
Figure it out for the third reading.
But we are committed 13 to get this paid or whatever.
Yeah, we can figure that out. Okay, new business, Andy Barber and Ron Hustis, am I saying that correctly? And this is regarding the downtown bridge and the East End Bridge.
We'll do these, we'll go downtown then East End, if that's all right with you all. My name is Andy Barber, I'm the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. I appreciate y'all having me here tonight. It's been pretty interesting. And I was telling Councilmember Julius there that the more I do these and see how some of the local cities work, it's really been an education for me too. But, no, in a good way. In a good way or in a... No, it is. It's enlightening. My education on civics wasn't very strong coming into this, so I learned quite a bit, so I appreciate that. I'm the project manager for the downtown crossing. The downtown crossing is the Kennedy Interchange, the redecking of the Kennedy Bridge, the new cable stay bridge across the Ohio River, and then the approach work here in Jeffersonville and Clarksville. In late 2011, Kentucky Governor Beshear and Indiana Governor Daniels split the Ohio River Bridges project into two procurements. Said Kentucky, take the downtown crossing. Indiana, you have the East End crossing. So since then, we've been developing our different procurement methods all through 2012. In November 2012, we awarded the contract for the downtown crossing to Walsh Construction. They came in with a bid of $860 million, and they came in, probably more importantly to us, what was most impressive to me anyway, was a completion date of December 9th, 2012. Or excuse me, December 9th, 2016. Yeah, that'd be real impressive, wouldn't it? That'd be real impressive coming in at 2012. So, no, 2016. So that's 18 months earlier than what we'd anticipated. Now, we chose Walsh based on, we didn't do just low bid. It was on a, what's called best value. We looked at their technical proposal, you know, how are you going to build it, what are you going to build. We looked at the price, of course, that played a role. As price was 70% of what was factored into their score. Their schedule to complete, and then the disadvantaged business enterprise plan for that too. So that was all factored into the score. Gave Walsh presented us with the best value. And so since that time, November 15th we opened bids. On December 6th, we awarded. On December 28th, we gave them a notice to proceed. So since that time, Walsh has come in. They've located right next to the Yum Center, downtown Louisville. We've been working there, working on design. We've also been working on our communications outreach plan too, or Walsh has. Some members of the City of Jeffersonville have been a part of that, as well as City of Clarksville. Louisville Metro, so it's not just trying to get the message out and make sure that message is accurate and everybody knows what's going on when the time comes. But we're also looking at, in the event of an accident, crisis. So your traffic and your incident management, that's all coordinated on both sides of the river too. So we've got City of Jeffersonville involved with that as well. The construction to begin here in July. So we anticipate major construction starting on the interstates be July, but you're going to see some work going on prior to that. If you look out now, you're probably seeing some stuff going on. You see some of the archaeology work that's going on in Jeffersonville. You may also see some Walsh trucks doing, or I guess maybe Stantec, doing some geotechnical investigations on both sides of the river. Beginning this week, you'll see some stuff going on the riverbank in Indiana. You're going to see what's called a test shaft, and they're going to be down there. They'll be erecting a crane to dig it's a shaft. It's going to be a representation of what is going to be ultimately a bridge pier or a pile, and they're going to come in, they're going to test it, make sure they do it right, do various tests on it. That'll be going on in May. That'll be kind of a big to-do, so there'll be more information coming out on that later. I mentioned the communications. We have the project website that's been going on since 2005, I think. So it's the same project website, and you have a link there for both the downtown and the east end where information will be disseminated. In addition to that website, there's a hotline. As construction becomes imminent, you'll start seeing some Twitter feeds coming out on the project, as well as the Facebook and additional media availabilities will be out there and stuff getting in the paper. One of the things that Walsh is proposing is one of the things that we required was an open house. That's for the public to come in and see what is coming on with the project for, say, the first year. We'll be doing 2 of these each year. The first one will be May 8th. That's going to be at the Millwood Arts Center this spring. Then in fall, we'll have one here in Indiana. We haven't chosen a venue yet, but we'll have 2, and we'll be alternating locations every year. I mentioned construction going on starting in July. The first step will be, most of the work will be going on in Louisville. You're going to see some impacts to 65 southbound, as well as some work down on some of the surface streets. The movement from, let's see what I call it, moving from the gambling boat to E-Town. So moving from 65 eastbound to 65 southbound, that ramp will be closed starting in July. The work in Indiana during that first phase actually becomes stages in Indiana. They'll be mostly offline. They'll be going on around be on the west side of the east side of 65, down around the river. Be a little bit of work coming on from Stansford, the Stansford Collector Distributor down to US 31. There'll be a little work there, but no impacts on the interstate and on the Indiana side.
Are you saying no exits will be closed in our downtown for how long?
Let's see. There's not during this first phase, this first stage goes into February of 2014. The first exit being closed, I apologize, I don't recall when that is. And that first one was being closed. But different exits have, I think we've got different durations allow for that, and that'll be coming up well in advance of any closure. You're not going to wake up and say, hey, I can't get there. So the information will be coming out well in advance of any closures or any impacts. Any questions?
Thank you.
No problem. And again, plenty of information will be sending out. This won't be the first time you hear from us, and we appreciate your all's cooperation on everything so far. So thank you.
Just so we can publish something on the Jeff City website, is there a website that we can send people to that'll direct them to?
Yes.
What is it?
AYINBridges.com. Thank you very much. That's a good idea.
Thank you.
INBridges.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Kentucky Indiana Bridge. KYIN. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Ron Hustis. I'm with the Indiana Department of Transportation. I'm the project manager for NDOT. Andy didn't give himself enough credit. He said he was the project manager for the downtown crossing, but he's really KYTC's project manager because we both have responsibilities that extend beyond our own crossings, so to speak. I'm not doing just the east end, but I've got responsibilities overall for NDOT for the ORB project, just as Andy's got responsibilities for KYTC overall for the ORB project. So our history for our procurement is very similar to what Andy went through with his. The major difference between the two procurements is that Kentucky went with a design-build contract, and it's the funding piece that is the difference really between those. They're in the midst of preparing for a bond sale and looking for TIFIA bonds also from the federal government, whereas Indiana went with a P3 type contract, public-private partnership. You probably read a lot about that. There's been some articles in the paper about that. But with that, what we're doing on the east end, the majority of the work out there, all of it in Indiana, the main bridge, and a small piece on the Kentucky side will be operated and maintained by our developer for 35 years. So those folks are moving into this community on a long-term basis. This is not something for 4 years and then they're gone. Our timeline is very similar. We did our selection process back in November, and the group that was selected as the developer was Walsh, Vinci, Bilfinger, East End Partners, WVB East End Partners. At Walsh is the same corporation that is the Walsh that's constructing downtown also, but it's two completely separate management groups. There is no crossover between those other than two people, Max Rowland and Brenda Wolf, who are handling some of the communications and DBE items. But the rest of that is completely separate so that they're not splitting time trying to juggle things back and forth. With that said, the WVB part, they have equity in the East End crossing. They are funding part of that themselves. Each of them a third of what their equity input is into that. So being a public-private partnership, there's public money that comes through the NDOT program that's in there, and then the private piece is what they're putting in as their own equity plus what they're raising through their bond sales. Okay. We reached, with that type of a program, there's two different notices to proceed. We reached what was called commercial close on December the 27th of last year. That finalized the terms of the contract items themselves, and we issued a notice to proceed 1, which was their authority to start, basically start design work, do field survey, and to go out and do some geotech investigation within the right-of-way on both sides of the river. And they've been doing that all along. Plus, we opened a project office out on port property. We're at 1302 Port Road. That's a co-located office between WVB and our NDOT folks. I'm out there included. Then in January 15th, we started clearing trees. Now, that is not the WVB East End Partners that was doing the tree clearing. That was two separate contracts that were let straight by NDOT, typical Indiana Department of Transportation contracts, to get trees down before the April 1st bat date. I don't know if you're familiar with the bat date, but can't cut trees between April 1st and in this area, August 15th, which that's better. Typically up northern part of Indiana, we got to wait till November. But anyway, so we left those two contracts separately to get those trees down, to get the right-of-way cleared so it would be ready when WVB is ready to begin construction. We knew that their contract would not get to the point where they could clear the trees soon enough themselves. That notice to proceed 1 did not give them the authority to go out and do construction, which included clearing right-of-way. Then March the 28th of this year, we reached financial close. That's when the terms of all the financing arrangement were reached. They had a bond sale. It was oversubscribed. It was one of the best sales for a P3 type project that's ever occurred in the United States, so it really went very well. And now we are on the process of getting to notice to proceed to. They have some more conditions they have to satisfy. There's a number of plans they have to submit, payment bonds, those kind of things. We anticipate we'll get to that sometime around the very end of April, maybe early 1st of May. That's when we anticipate to satisfy all those conditions. Once we get to that, then notice to proceed to will be issued, and that's the real construction piece. So our construction timeline, very similar again to the downtown. We anticipate the construction will be started early in mid-May. You'll start seeing work. That will mainly begin on the south side of the river, or in this case, it's really the east side of the river. You got to kind of get your orientation right on the east end. But because of all the rock excavation that has to be done on that side, that's where the critical path lies. But you'll begin to see work on the Indiana side in the end of May, early June, with really all the work beginning on the State Road 265, Port Road 62 interchange. That'll really be underway by October. Okay. Along those lines, the work in the interchange, there won't be any of the ramp movements closed for any length of time. They always have access any direction through the interchange. There'll be a lot of temporary pavement in there while they do some of the new work, but you will have access through there all the time. The only closure on the Indiana side, Utica-Sellersburg Road, that'll be a 6-month closure. It's, right now, looks like April of 14 to October of 14.
Utica-Sellersburg Road?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Aware of that one.
That's a 6 months closure. That ends up going over 265.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Towards the port. I got you.
Right, exactly.
Is that the closure where they're clearing trees now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a main artery to Utica Elementary too, so we need
That'll be part of our traffic management plan that has to be developed, is working with the schools and the emergency services to make sure they're aware of what's going to take place, that they have plenty of time to plan for detour routes, particularly school bus routes. Yeah. We're getting ready to do that. Actually, next Monday, we have our first traffic management planning meeting down at the Sheraton Riverside.
What's the estimated length of that closure?
6 months. It's limited to 6 months by contract.
Okay. Well, that's the last 2 months of school and the first 2 months of school.
Yeah, most of it's through the summer.
Okay.
Yeah, and which construction season, fortunately, is typically through the summer. So, we have a number of outreach events that we're doing also. You're probably aware we've had some open houses already. We had an open house out at Utica Community Center back in March. That was one of two. We had one on the Kentucky side of the river. We're not quite the difference between us and downtown is it takes us 45 minutes to get from one side of our project over to the other side of our project. I'm supposed to have some engineers water transportation, and I haven't found out what that's going to be yet. I'm kind of interested to find out exactly what I get. But we're going to.
Jet ski.
I'm kind of hoping for. I'm thinking maybe a houseboat would be about the right kind of thing. My wife and I are looking for a place to move down here, so maybe we'll just put a houseboat in the middle of the river and both sides of the river. But no, anyway, then coming up this week yet, the 17th, we have another open house out at Utica Community Center. The first one was an introductory open house to let you know who we were and try to answer questions in general. This one's going to be more about the landscaping and the looks of what the Indiana approach is going to look like out on the east end.
Time of that meeting, the 17th?
Yeah, it's the 17th at,
Stumped you, didn't I?
yeah, I'll look it up while we talk here. How about that? We got another one on Thursday on the Kentucky side.
This Wednesday?
And they're two different times, and that's why your question kind of threw me. But it is 5:30 to 8:30. It's an open house event, so
You come and go.
tell the folks that you can show up at any time. You don't have to be there at 5:30, okay? There'll be people there to try to answer questions about landscaping, those things in particular. I'll be there. If you've got other questions, I'll be glad to try to address those too. Yes, yeah, you're right, exactly. The project website that Andy told you about, if you go to meetings, or if you go to the East End Crossing, you'll see information about all the upcoming events for the East End. Then on April the 24th, a week from Wednesday, we will have another meeting at the community center, and this one is more about the construction impacts. We'll, in particular, discuss the blasting that will take place on the Indiana side and pre-blast surveys. There'll be information about that there. If a person is within 500 foot of a blast zone, we'll do a pre-blast survey on your property, on your structures. That'll take place. We'll talk about that. Provide some information about general maintenance of traffic, the way the interchange will function during construction, and again, be there to try to answer questions in general about concerns that folks might have about the work that's going to take place out there. Our schedule is to start work this summer and be done by the end of October 2016. It won't be a partial opening, and the whole thing will open at once. Like I said, the interchange stays open the whole time, but south of the interchange, across the river, and connecting to 71 through Kentucky 841, that'll all take place in October of 16. So, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions or anything you got.
Any questions?
Okay, great.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Ron, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Is Dennis Henry here? Is the police merit board here?
I don't see him.
They had requested
To be put on, I
to
thought.
put on, yeah, and I assumed
They would be
it would be
here.
today.
Okay, so let's go through the, Mr. Lewis, all those things.
I apologize when I was asked to place these topics on the agenda.
And let me explain, I was approached by different council people to put these things on the agenda, and they're on here to either be passed or at least to open the discussion, so.
So, like I said, I apologize. There was numerous items. I had some pre-existing deadlines on my calendar, information that I had to get completed last week, so that's why this did not get into your packet. So I do apologize for that you're just seeing, at least the topic is on the agenda. So the first item, introduced at least for discussion, I was asked to prepare an ordinance prohibiting the appointment of any person to any city board, city commission, or city committee who has filed pending litigation against the city. It's a very simple proposed ordinance. First paragraph just cites the city council as the city's statutory legislative body, which would allow us to pass such a policy. Second paragraph just says, whereas in the past certain persons have been appointed to certain city boards, city commissions, or city committees who have filed pending litigation against the city, and then a statement stating, whereas a person who sits on a city board, commission, or committee who has filed pending litigation creates an actual or possible conflict of interest with said person in their representation of the city on said board, commission, or committee. And then it says, now therefore be it ordained by the common council that a person who has filed pending litigation against the city shall be prohibited from being appointed to any city board, city commission, or city committee due to an actual or possible conflict of interest. So it's a very simple ordinance.
I have a couple comments and statements, I guess. I had asked Scott about doing this because I know I've seen some individuals that are suing us, yet they're on our boards, and I'm like, that just doesn't seem to flow well to me. And they have every right to sue, but if you're against us on one hand, don't be representing us on the other hand. I have a difficult time with that. So that was my initial thought on this. I do have a question. When, for example, if a board or the council, I'll just say a board, files for declaratory judgment, that's officially a suit, I guess, but you're trying to just get the answer resolved on something, how does that?
Well, no, like declaratory judgment under, say, like a separation of powers argument or something between a board and the city, because if it would not be the individual member who's filing that type of lawsuit.
Okay.
Any sort of a declaratory judgment suit for under like separation of powers, it's the entity as a board or a commission Just as if if the council is sued in a lawsuit, or you initiate lawsuit, it's not you all individually, it's collectively the council. So I don't think that situation would apply.
Okay.
This is talking about like a personal, if an individual's a person has an individual lawsuit. And of course, the other thing to be aware of, technically, whether, it's Congress or a state legislator or a city council legislative body, you can't do retroactive legislation. So technically, if anyone is on a current board, commission, or committee that has pending litigation currently, this would not apply to that appointment because you can't retroactively, that person's already appointed. This is prospectively.
So we can,
Legislation's prospective.
so we can discuss this. I'll make a motion to approve 2013 OR 7 on the first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2013 OR 7 on the first reading.
Yeah, now discuss. Yeah, now
And now we can discuss.
What happens if President Sellers is at the aquatic center and slips and breaks your leg and sues the city? Is she no longer going to be a council member, or are we going to not hold ourselves to that standard? Does that make sense?
Great question.
Well, I see what you're saying, but being elected is a different...
Right, I know,
Being
but-
appointed to a...
Like the appointment would be, usually the appointments to boards are either
So wouldn't that
mayor
still
or
be the same
council.
conflict of interest?
That's a good question for...
Or that would be something I promise I will stay away from, I'll be very careful if I go to the aquatic center.
When the way I read this is, you say it's not retroactive, are you also saying that if a person has involved in a collision with a police officer, they have pending litigation, they don't sit on a committee, they can't sit on a committee in the future till that litigation is resolved?
No, because the actual term, when you use, when the term in here is called pending litigation. While pending means currently active litigation that's before the court that's not been resolved. So the way this is worded, this would not apply to someone that, say, 5 years ago had a suit against the city for whatever reason, and that suit was resolved. It's no longer active or before a court.
Okay, then
This
let
would
me-
not apply to that.
Let me take that a step further. If I'm sitting on a commission, or I'm sitting on a board, and the same situation occurs, and I file a suit, am I removed from that board?
Well, that's a good question. You can't...
Because this to me sounds great, but
these are things
you're
we
kind
need to
of
talk about.
You're kind of foreshadowing that I'm going to sue, I'm going to have pending litigation, so I'm not going to be able to serve. If I can't go, if I'm already sitting on a board and I file a suit and then you remove me, then that seems to me that's...
Yeah, and this is
that's
talking
muddy
about...
water too, so...
Yeah, I think there's an issue if you're already, and the way this language, I don't think it would allow that. If you're already sitting on a board, this doesn't say that you're going to be removed. This talks about appointing someone. So like if there's a vacancy that's open and someone has pending litigation, you're not appointing someone that already has litigation. This does not address that situation you're talking about, Brian, that if you're already sitting on a board or commission, and then a new suit arises...
I guess my mind's wondering here, why
Don't wanna
would
be punishing
we
someone.
appoint somebody to a board that has pending litigation?
Has that happened?
It's already happened.
Yeah. It's happened, okay,
We have
well...
appointed
So
someone?
I don't disagree with you. I think it would be bad policy if you're already on a
No,
board
we
or
haven't.
commission, and like you said, police officer or a truck, city truck plows into someone, you don't want to punish that person.
Okay,
Right.
So this is not addressed to someone already on a board. This only addresses someone that's not currently sitting on a board and they have some sort of litigation, and then appointing that person to that board.
What I've seen happen over time is that, and a lot of times this happens during a change of administration, where somebody, a business or individual sues the administration, sues the city, and then maybe is against the mayor, against the current administration. New administration comes in and those people end up getting contracts or getting appointed to boards. I'm not saying that's always the case, but that's what I've seen over time. And that was going to be my question. Can we do this for businesses as well? Say we can't give contracts to companies who are suing us? Because I've seen that happen as well.
True.
Absolutely, that could be done.
That's
So,
happened.
this is obviously, it's just being introduced for discussion. You're talking about first reading. These are ideas that
I don't
we
want to
can
muddy your
change the
ordinance.
language.
No, and I'm
Thinking out loud.
Good discussion.
I'm fine with modifying it in the second, third reading, however we want to do it. I just, to me, whenever somebody is adversarial against the city, now, again, we bring up good points. If somebody gets hurt, that's not necessarily adversarial. They're just trying to resolve their issue. I look at that differently. But It's just trying to say, if there's that situation, just don't let them, have them represent us by serving on an appointed board.
And
Until that's resolved.
And what if some of them boards do pay, even though it's small, they do pay money.
Well, so I'm totally open to it. It was just, I want to put it out there for discussion and.
Yeah, we
I
can
think we
modify
pass it.
some of that language.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there is a potential for, I mean, depending upon the nature of the lawsuit, I think Nathan's got a good point, that when you sit on a board, commission, or committee, sometimes you do come privy to certain potential confidential information that potentially does create conflict of interest, so.
You're saying,
But I mean, we can modify some of the language for some of Brian's concerns about clarifying whether it involves past litigation that's already been resolved, or if you're already appointed. I mean, I can tighten that. I was just trying to put something together.
Yeah, I guess I was naive enough to think that we wouldn't point somebody to a board that has pending litigation to us, but, you know, hey, I learn something every day.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any other
For first
questions,
reading.
comments? For first reading? No? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and then,
Okay.
next one is a procedure for amending the meeting agenda.
Okay. And I was asked to prepare this originally when it was placed on, it was using the term ordinance. You just want to pass it all the way down. But when I researched the current, there's a current resolution, as you see here, resolution number 2000-R-3. That's the resolution which actually sets forth this particular procedure. So obviously, this has to be a resolution to amend a current resolution. So what number would this be, Vicki?
7.
For a resolution, okay. And I was asked to prepare this, and this is a resolution amending resolution number 2000-R-3 regarding the amendment of a proposed meeting agenda. And this states basically that there's an existing resolution 2000-R3, which states that the Common Council shall only amend the proposed meeting agenda by unanimous consent. And then this resolution states that the council now desires to amend Resolution 2000-R-3 to authorize the council to amend a proposed meeting agenda by simple majority vote rather than by unanimous consent. So that is the essence of this proposed resolution.
Just a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Wasn't this Robert's Rules? Didn't we look it up?
No, well,
No,
this is a resolution that the council passed in 2000.
This is an
But he's
actual
proposing-
resolution. This is an actual resolution outside of Robert Rules, which states the council will amend by
But
unanimous.
yes, in Robert's rules, it does say it's majority.
Okay, that's, yeah.
But you can do
But-
this.
But they could, whoever was on the council in 2000 could make that.
Gotcha.
Give us him.
Les.
I'm sure there always is.
Were you going to ask a question, Ed?
That was my question, about
Okay.
rules.
I'll make a motion to approve 2013-R7.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2013-R7 to change the council to amend a proposed meeting agenda by simple majority rather than by unanimous consent.
The
Any-
question.
Okay, I was getting ready to say
Oh,
that.
sorry. What was the motivation for this?
I don't know, one here in 2000.
I'll speak to that, because
Oh,
I feel,
oh, you mean this one?
This one.
this
Right.
one, yeah. To me, whenever you have the majority of the council that wants something on the agenda, for one council member to hold that up and say, no, you've got to wait 2 weeks, or depending on the schedule, 3 weeks before we can do that, I don't think it's appropriate. We have, that's, I think, too much power by one person.
I spoke to Connie and Ed earlier about this, and I agreed with you all when we talked about it, but then I talked to Matt, and he brought up a really good point, that I'm the kind of person that sometimes I'd like to let something soak in before I vote on it. And generally that's okay, because ordinance are 1, 2, 3 readings, but resolutions aren't. So you throw a resolution, I don't know, doing whatever, in front of me, and, I mean, I don't know how I want to vote that day.
Like this.
Exactly.
I mean, this was dropped, no pun intended. I mean, this was dropped 5 minutes ago, and we're asked to make a decision that's going to change the way we conduct meetings. I mean, I just feel it's a common courtesy amongst council members that if this is going to come before us to vote on, that I should have at least 3 or 4 days. We have to have our stuff in by Thursday. to be on the agenda, and,
Vote on it in 2 weeks?
I mean, it's just...
I'll
it's
withdraw
just-
my motion, if you'll withdraw your second.
I will.
Then I'll make a motion to table.
But I think the principle is the same. It's not about this resolution. It's the fact that anybody, any majority can say, we want to add something to the agenda. You haven't had a chance to look at it. You're not going to get a chance to look at it. You need to vote on it right now.
Right.
And it's not just this one, it's anyone that could come after it. And it's inappropriate. If I sit on this board, then I should be privy to the information necessary to make a decision when I'm asked to vote on the record for my constituents. And to say, no, you don't deserve that right is somewhat disgusting, to be honest.
Well, I can make 2 points. It's Robert's Rules of Order, which
Right.
we operate most of our meeting that way. And the other thing is, this, when you put something on the agenda, you don't always have all the detailed information. And it was on the agenda, we didn't have the wording, and that, you know, sometimes it's a 20-page document, and there's no way you can read it. Sometimes it's, you know, half a page. It's pretty clear to understand. So, I don't feel bad about getting some stuff on the agenda, and considering voting on it when it's not too complicated. And I don't mind supporting this because it follows Robert's Rules of Order. So I'm not sure why it changed and was more restrictive in the past.
Well, I mean, he's not saying that we should never be allowed to amend the agenda. He's saying when it is one simple sheet of paper that we can read it and understand it and really grasp it right then and there, then yeah, we can amend the agenda. But then when it might be 3 pages long and there might be something, you know, that...
Once something's on the agenda, you can call Nathan and say, Nathan, why'd you put that on the agenda? Or call your attorney and say, I see you're going to speak about this. Can you give me some detail? Because there was nothing else in the packet.
Right.
Well,
But
right,
if
but
it's not on the
sometimes it's not on the
agenda-
agenda
If
at
it's
all.
not on the agenda and you want to add it, then I don't know to ask those questions.
Well, in this, yeah, I understand. I guess in this case, you cite this document, and I would say, well, I guess that's not the...
Yeah, in this case, it was my oversight because I didn't see it on the agenda until today.
But
But
that's not the...
that's not the
necessarily
issue.
the point.
The issue is in the future, you know. I would like to know to ask for the information before it's just dropped in front of me. And I'm not sure why that's an issue.
I don't know.
I'm not sure why this has come up unless it's because I blocked a resolution from coming before the council a couple of months ago. You know, if that's the case, then please let me know.
Well, actually, it was what you said. You said you would never, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you would never vote on something to be added to the amendment if it wasn't before. You said never, that was your words. You said you would never allow that.
Allow me to rescind my word, never. I am not comfortable adding things to the agenda that I have not seen before, that I have not had an opportunity to digest. You know, I think Nathan sent me an email before the last council meeting and said, hey, you know, this wasn't on the agenda, but I'm thinking about bringing it up. That was appropriate. I wasn't here to object to it being on the agenda, but that was appropriate. I had the information ahead of time. No harm, no foul.
To
I'm
be
not
fair,
sure.
since he said never, he has voted along to amend the agenda to allow something on. I mean, since then.
No, we've made it a point never to do that because that was said.
Okay.
Well, I withdrew, and Dennis withdrew his second, and I made a motion to table,
Okay.
so everybody has a chance to read it. And Scott explained it, and I accept his understanding tonight, but I was a little bit concerned because I didn't read it till tonight. I knew what I asked him to try to do, but I didn't read it till the same time he read it.
And again,
So-
I'm not opposed to considering, I mean, it's not this that we're opposed to. It's not this piece of paper that we're opposed to. It's the idea that this could come in the form of a 30-page packet, and some people might not ever know about it.
This is
So
one
it
of those
says-
resolutions that we could probably vote on when it's laid down in front of us, because it's one sheet. But there could be something in the future that is a little bit more, that should take a little bit more time to digest.
Or quite simply, as Matt said, if there's a majority of the people on the council that wants to push this piece of paper and they vote to amend the agenda, and they know there are 4 people that are against it, it doesn't allow me to gather information to refute what you're saying in this. So
Exactly.
I think it gives just, it's...
And again, we're not talking about this.
No, we're not talking about this.
It's a principle.
It's the principle. I think that, I'm representing a group of people, and I think they rely on me to read everything in this packet and vote on it accordingly. And if I'm not given that right to digest this information, then you're basically telling them they don't have the right to digest that information. And I just don't think that's, I don't think it's courteous, I don't think it's respectful, so.
Would,
Enough said.
since we're talking about it just briefly, what about a supermajority?
2/3.
Yeah, 2/3.
That still cuts out, if it's me that is not in the 2/3 majority and I have no idea what's going on, I still have 44,000 constituents to answer to as to why I'm going to vote one way or another. And I'm going to have to vote because 2/3 of the majority is pushing the issue. And you can make the motion to pass or, not pass now. This isn't the passing this piece of paper, OR7 or R7, isn't the issue. It's the next ordinance that comes without.
So your
I won't be for...
decision won't change?
No, my decision's not going to change. This is not appropriate.
Call the question.
Well, wait, then you got to make your motions over again, I think, because you withdrew.
I think you had a motion to table.
I did.
I think it was seconded, right?
Oh, okay.
I thought it was seconded. It wasn't seconded.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Seconded.
So you want tabled?
Sure.
Have a motion and second to table Resolution 2013-7. Okay, and then the next one is... Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. I wasn't for tabling it. We need to vote it down.
Okay. Well, it was voted to be tabled, so...
Of course. I just saw some looks because they were puzzled.
Yeah, you've had me wondering there.
I wanted to...
2013, this one actually has been brought up before, and it was in our council packet, and it was not brought up at the last meeting because I forgot to have it added back in. But this is the capital expenditures and leases.
And actually, it's going to be in the form of a resolution instead of ordinance. I know on the agenda it says ordinance, but we did something similar last year. And since it's a procedure, it's better for a resolution as we did last year, and that's what was previously introduced.
And when it was brought up a couple of meetings ago, someone brought up the question of leases, because we put capital expenditures, and then so we added leases in this as well.
Yeah, and what this says is that this is a resolution implementing the change in procedures for approving capital expenditure purchases and leases for remaining calendar year of 2013 until further approval by the council. And this states that same language that we used last year in a similar resolution. We state that due to the uncertainties and the future impact of circuit breaker caps on the city budget and the uncertainties in future budget revenues, the council has determined that it is in the city's best financial interest to change the procedures in approving capital expenditure purchases, and then we added leases. This is something that's new that was not in the prior one, and leases in excess of $5,000 for the remaining calendar year of 2013 until further consideration and further approval by the council after a specific request is made to the council by a department head or other appropriate city official.
And this is just for 2013?
Right.
Yeah, you can't,
Okay.
yeah, budgets live basically from one calendar year to the next. You can't do an action this year to affect any sort of budget or procedure for 2014. You can only act on this calendar.
So that's something to remember, that next January 1st, if we're going through the same problems that we've been going through with with the tax caps and everything, that this would need to be passed the first in January. So.
We have a number.
8.
Oh, you going
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2013-8. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'm going to pass this around for everybody's signature. You need to sign it.
Okay, I'll remember. I usually forget to sign at 2 spots. And then this, the next one that I've asked Mr. Lewis to work on is an ordinance implementing a temporary freeze on the use of city-issued credit cards, and the only reason I brought that up is because several council people have mentioned it, and I wanted to open for discussion with everyone present. So,
Yeah, this, Mike's passing it down, and in pursuit of the way I was asked to prepare it, it's a very simple ordinance, introduced for discussion purposes only, because obviously it may need to be amended and modified, but it's a starting point for discussion. I was asked to prepare an ordinance implementing temporary freeze of the use of city-issued credit cards, basically applying to all credit cards, and I think that's one thing that Connie said wanted to be discussed, to see if there's alternatives to that. But in the simple language of this ordinance, the reason why this was being proposed is that the Common Council has discussed, if you look at paragraph 2 of the ordinance, the Common Council has discussed, in conjunction with the city's legal department, the necessity of amending the city's policy regarding the use of city-issued credit cards, whereas the process of amending the city's credit card policy is still ongoing, whereas until the process has been completed, the council now determines that a temporary freeze of the use of city-issued credit cards shall be implemented. So now therefore be it ordained that until the process of amending the city's credit card policy is completed, a temporary freeze of the use of city-issued credit cards shall be hereby implemented. So the language is very simple, just for discussion purposes.
I might be able to address it a little bit. 5 years ago, when I first went on the council, we had probably in excess of 40 credit cards. And through the process of, and Senator Grooms was involved, and probably Nathan through the Finance Committee, we went through and we cut them down to a little over 20-something credit cards. And the goal was to try to get a handle on the spending and just the easy use of credit cards, I guess, for lack of a better term. So as we went on, of course, the number of people that have credit cards and our spending has went up considerably. And then when we met, I happened to be at one of the finance meetings several weeks ago, and to address the $2.4 million circuit breaker, one of my comments, and I brought it up about addressing the credit card issue. And I know, just a brief conversation with Les, I think he's got some thoughts. I know he's not finished, but he has some thoughts on this, on how we can maybe better manage the use of the city credit cards. And I know also that the state of Indiana really doesn't like credit cards. And I don't think there's any writing on it, but in the conversation several years ago, they really looked down on it. And they would prefer, for example, if you use a credit card, use your credit card, document the information, turn it in, and you reimburse versus using a city credit card. That's kind of how this started, and it's basically trying to manage the spending. But that's the gist of it. Yeah. So.
Well, and my concern is we have a claim process, and a lot of the stuff that I've been going through claims, there's charges on there that need to go through the claims process. But also, once they charge this, we're responsible to pay. So we can't question it. We can't get it back through the claims process. I mean, it's charged, and we're responsible to okay it. And I've had several conversations with State Board of Accounts, and we are not getting the proper receipts. They're getting better, but we're not getting them, and they really frown on we have to have those itemized receipt. It has to be city-related business, not just a group of you go out to lunch. There's very specific guidelines to use that credit card, and I really think we need to get this under control, the spending on those credit cards. That's just my opinion.
How many credit cards do we have now?
I don't know. We've added since then. Brian, I didn't ask.
Does the city garage use credit cards and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry? I mean, from a controller's position, I mean, is this not going to, is this not going to burden the city, the administration of performing daily duties? I mean, honestly,
Some departments, I think, it will.
I understand under the covers where we're going here. I'm just wondering if we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, if we've got issues, let's point this to the issue and not make this burdensome on everybody who does good business the way they should be doing it. That would be my only comment. The second comment I would have is, if we're going to put in here until the process amending, until we amend the credit card policy, then I think it's only fair that, as a good faith effort, we put a date on when we plan to amend that. Because temporary to me is temporary. That may be next week. To people who are amending this policy, that may be next July.
I agree with you on that too. We need to do that. The other thing that I think is, I would like to talk to the county. Do they use credit cards? I think we talked to Clarksville, and they have one that they use for the entire, was it you that we went up to speak with Senator Grooms, or it was Nathan?
Mhm.
And how many did they say they had?
It was
One?
yeah, and
It was
I
like
think that-
one? And I think what has happened, it's kind of like with cell phones, we've gotten dependent on it, and now it's like we don't know how to cut back, and I think that we need to go back and do it the right way.
Well, the other
And,
thing that's happening is, there's no accountability on these credit cards.
Right.
I mean, we get the credit cards for different departments, and you go back and look at the bills, there's a signature at the bottom. It doesn't tell who went to lunch, what they met about, or anything.
And it's not just that, it's like if you purchase furniture, or if you
I
purchase
agree.
certain things, that should go through the claim process. To me, it should not be put on a credit card. That's why they have their budgets.
And I don't disagree with you, but how do we, in this temporary freeze, I'm not going to disagree with this, but in a temporary freeze, if somebody needs something at the city garage and they need a part, how do they go to that process of purchasing that part? Do we take a car offline for 2 weeks before?
Right. And I agree with Brian on that. I think that, I wanted this put in, obviously, for open discussion, but I don't think this is something we can say tomorrow no one can use a credit card, because there's going to have to say, you can use it, get all your ducks in a row up until this point, and then after this date, you need to start filing the proper claims process, or something. I don't know.
I think it's important and makes sense to have one, two, or three and held either probably by the controller, where they can be checked out. I know, for example, training, if you go to reserve something on training, it's very convenient to do that, but and there's other, maybe for some travel or things. But as Mike said before, when I came on, pretty much most of the department heads had their vendors lined up. For any parts, they had their vendor, and
They had the city.
and they had it all. The process was outlined, it was followed, it was very pretty clean, and now it's like everything that used to be purchased by vendors, even down to reams of paper, now is on a charge card, and it's really difficult to track, and it's got somewhat I don't know if it's out of control, but out of hand from an organizational perspective, and so that's I guess my take is we would not limit it to, and I know we're not doing this on all three readings, so nothing's happening tomorrow, but even maybe amended or where we put a freeze on all but one or two cards, because there may be that issue where you got to have it.
And the issue is, don't we have a limit? What's the credit card limit?
They're all
It
different.
used to be 5,000, I thought.
But
I think it's 5,000 on each card.
That was on the Republic cards.
I think it's
but we have
all-
other cards that are not Republic.
I know, I was thinking it was all our
Were those
credit cards.
authorized?
But we only ever see the Republic cards.
Not by the council. It was not.
See, that's an issue.
Yeah, it is.
What was that you said? I'm sorry.
I said, he said there's cards other than Republic
Right.
cards, and I said, were they authorized? And he said, no, not by the council.
Oh,
Well, we
Yeah.
only get receipts of stuff on the Republic cards, so we're not even seeing what's going on all these other
I
cards.
raised that last time.
Yeah.
There's a John Deere, I know. Finance.
Typically, like, our company has John Deere credit cards, and it's held in-house at that vendor.
Okay,
So it's kind of like a house account.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
gotcha.
I would just think that, coming from the corporate world, usually You have vendors, I need this part, they deliver it,
Right.
it's charged, here comes a bill to the city.
That's what we
It's
use.
paid within 30 days, 90 days, whatever the agreements are. I
And that's
can't
what we
imagine
used
that
to
there's
do.
too many emergencies where we have to run out and swipe a card. Now, I know they come up, but
And the other thing too is I would think I'm not speaking for Amy, but with the different cards coming at different times, if you're a day late, you've got a huge penalty. I don't know if we pay penalties.
We're not supposed to.
We're not supposed to, not supposed to, but versus a vendor, if you're a day or two late, they want your business and they let it go, or,
vendor's taking an extra 3%.
so, sure. So anyway, there's a lot of thoughts
I
behind
guess
it.
what in our discussion was, and I brought it up when we was talking about it, was how do we, with the cuts we have to make in different control and management, this is something that I wanted just to discuss. Obviously, the controller has to be involved in it, but at some point, we need to simplify this, need to get it down, so if you are going to charge something, if you are going to out to eat, for example, that there is, if I do my card, my personal card, I'm going to document everything because I want the money.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Versus use a
Isn't
city
that what you
card,
said
you
you
wing
did?
it. I'm sorry?
Is that what you do, Ed,
That's all I
at the
do.
business?
yeah, I mean, you have to, I mean, there's apps now on the phone where you can go to, if you go to a meal, you can take a picture of your credit card receipt that blows it into the cloud, that the organization can then go pull it out of the cloud and pull that receipt up, and it says, I ate with Joe Blow at Buckhead's. I mean, it's very simple to do, you know, I mean, it's not, we don't have to recreate the wheel, I mean, it just,
Right.
I just think that, you know, some things have gotten out of hand, so.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically a money management thing. It's not, nobody's picking on nobody, it's just a money management thing, and that's what we need to address.
My only fear is, like I said, if you have an employee that's going to a certain amount of training, and if we're going to if the city's going to ask them to go train to keep up certain credentials to do their job, and they have to put things on their credit card, I don't want to cause a hardship for that person. That's where I think there should be some use or some arrangements made. I just don't, like I said, I don't.
Normally, in
We
the
do that
past, the clerk
before.
treasurer had
And she filled out
thinking
the,
3 cards, and if we went to training,
Yeah.
we would go to Monica. We'd go to Amy, and we'd say, we're going to this training, and basically,
Sign it
that's
out.
how it would be managed.
You sign it out.
And usually, at that time, they would sign you up. I mean, you didn't even do that. They basically signed you up and then
if you have
did the credit
airfare
card,
or
so...
hotel or have to sign
all that
up,
was
they can
done.
do all that here, so it doesn't have to be put on your personal credit
Right.
card.
And that's what Candy does now.
Mhm.
She's very careful with that credit card.
So this is up for discussion. It's a financial thing, and that's why we're here.
I mean,
Yeah, do you have a motion?
Is the financial committee taking our credit card policy under review? Is that who's been tasked
Yes.
with this?
Well, actually, I've been talking to Les, and me and Les have kicked around some ideas.
Yeah.
I know we talked about coming up with something, and
I've been looking at different policies on the mayor.
I've been looking at different policies and trying to share.
The executive has implemented last week a new policy regarding
Shouldn't be.
procedure for non-travel bills and business bills, which I think cut down on a good amount for credit card.
Yeah, it really needs to go through the council, though, to be in order, to make it,
Oh, I know, but I think
yeah.
but since it affects the administration
Right.
department heads, that's why.
What's the
we're
ordinance
first, you
number
have
on
to
this,
kind of
Vicki?
work with.
Again, this is for discussion, and I think a lot of good points were brought up tonight. So, and I thank our attorneys, and hopefully Amy, I know she's burdened now, but maybe she can do a little research on some other communities and just see how we can simplify this and what's out there. So I just make a motion to pass 2000 OR 8 on the first reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to pass 2013 OR 8 on the first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And then, I asked Scott to do this, and I don't know if it's necessary now since they're already working on it, but I asked him to send a letter to the mayor requesting that the department heads do the 10% or start looking at their budgets. Is that necessary? No? Because we're already doing it?
Our plan is to have something for next week.
Yeah, and please make it as detailed as possible so we can see where the cuts have taken place and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to...
There's one other thing I want, do what? I'm sorry. Do we want the line item, Lisa,
Right now, we just have a series.
or just a series?
Well, last year, didn't we went line item by line item, didn't we, Nathan? I mean, that,
We did, but I don't think our budget's broken out like that, is it? Or is it just in series?
It is.
Well, then yes, I would recommend
rather do
doing
it
that.
line item.
We were actually line
I want to see the line items, so we all know where the cuts came from. Okay. And then I have one other thing that it's not new, we've talked about this before, is the
So do
travel.
you want to just table this?
Yeah, just table it, or just...
This was just real quick, this is a question that I had. I was asked to prepare this letter, which if you all voted on it, Connie would have signed it as the president. Now, I don't have any letterhead with the city council, so, because I don't think I've ever been asked to actually do a letter before, so my question is there existing city council letterhead, or do I need?
Nathan, do you have some of all our names on it?
letterhead that I use is
got-
basically...
not with the current mayor.
It has a
So, no, I
seal,
don't.
a
Okay. It's the
city,
old
and
mayor.
then when I send out anything, I put my name, clerk, city clerk, so I mean, we
Okay,
can...
that would be
So it's a
good.
generic, okay. Because I just like, this was a draft and it doesn't have any letterhead, so it wouldn't have gone out in this form, because
Right.
that was one thing I was going to bring up. If this was approved, I would try to acquire city letterhead, because I don't have,
If we table, well, we need to do something, we need to vote this down, or otherwise it ain't gonna be on the next
No,
agenda.
No,
there's no action.
There's no action,
There's
there's
no
no
action.
action, it
Okay.
just comes off. And then the next thing, it's the travel ordinance, which I know we've talked about that before as well. We need to get something done with that. We need to start working on that. I know it's right on the heels of the credit card. Well, I hadn't talked to you about that yet. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. It kind of goes along with the credit card ordinance, and that's something that we need to do as well.
that's one thing, that was an additional thing I was talking to Les, because I know we have to pass the ordinance, but I think out of a courtesy, Les had asked if we were going
Right.
to Ken on legal department, since it does affect the
Right.
department heads.
Can I ask one question? What about the executive order that was done? Isn't
What
that
executive
used?
order?
Isn't that used? The executive order that we received, was it last week?
Yeah, last week,
What executive order?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
regarding I think it's called non-travel meals, business meals.
I have no idea, I've not seen it. Don't know.
I'll get it to you all tomorrow. I got it from them, I don't...
I emailed it to you and to Scott.
I don't remember seeing
I'll
it.
get it to you.
I didn't see it come through.
I'll,
Unless I went to my junk mail. Sometimes when I
I'll
get
email
certain...
it out.
And Les,
He's got
you
your
need
mark,
to-
Les.
Certain attachments to my emails, for some reason, go into junk mail.
Les is goes straight to trash.
No.
I didn't see it through my regular email.
I have there was one time too, I know Vicki was trying to send me stuff on my city email. It wasn't coming through, it kept bouncing back.
Things to your personal.
What happened?
Yeah, well, she was trying to send it to my personal, it kept bouncing back, saying that it was, I don't know if I thought I had a virus or what, but,
Yes.
You were blacklisted.
That's when we were blacklisted.
oh, we're blacklisted.
Yes, I think Vicki told me the same thing, you're trying to say.
Let's just keep moving.
Or somebody.
You're on the blacklist.
So, it might have been then, I don't know,
You hungry or something?
so,
Tired of sitting.
okay. Public comment, is there any public comment?
I hit the wall.
Okay, no public comment, council comment, Councilperson Smith.
I just have two quick things. Lisa and I went up to Vissing Park the other day, and there was quite a bit of use, but not a lot of people, and that really worked out good for us because it gave us time to really search over the whole park. We found several issues that need to be addressed, and I talked to Paul Northam today a little bit about them issues, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit at our parks meeting, but the park is being used. Kathy and I went up there yesterday and sat at the bench on the outfield of the park number 1, and all the kids run up and down the hills. But again, it is still some final tweaking, have some settlement, have ditches and things like that. So Lisa and I, when we went up, we made a list of things, and I gave them to Paul today. But it's pretty neat. It really is. Another thing, too, I spoke to briefly, Senator Grooms was here Saturday, and I spoke to him briefly about tax caps. My question to him was, last year we was hit with $3.5 million. This year we was hit with $3.250 million. So my question to him was, is this trending? Next year, can we expect $3 million hit. If we do with over $9 million in hits and circuit breakers, that's going to be hard to hit, to capture in our general fund, because public safety is 75% of that budget. So anyway, we may set up some type of a little educational road trip. I understand the tax caps, and I understand the 1%, 2%, and 3%, but why are we getting hit this hard when communities around us aren't getting hit as hard? Is it because of assessments? I don't know, and I've talked to Vicki a little bit about it, trying to get my head wrapped around it, because why are we getting, something's out of kilter, and I don't know what it is. But we can't it's going to be hard to sustain at $3 million per year hit. I mean, at some point, it's like, what are we going to do? So in the future, we may set something up with Senator Grooms up in Annapolis. Maybe we'll take a road trip and talk to somebody. I definitely want them to dumb it down. I don't want to talk to a CPA. It's going to spend an hour and get on there and start, I want to dumb it down for me anyway. But to try to figure out next year, if all possible, what Jeffersonville can expect. So I just threw that out there and see what I can learn, or what we can learn. So the ones that can't go, obviously we can pass on any information. There's certain days he said it would be best to go, so as I gather information, I'll send that out, and possibly we can go up there and spend a couple hours and try to learn a little bit more about it. So that's all I have. Thanks.
No comment?
No comment.
I just have a couple things, just make sure Amy, which you probably will, but just to put out to the department heads that we did pass the 2013 resolution number 8 on the capital expenditures and leases. I mean, they were aware that there wasn't nothing in place, so if you could do that, appreciate it. And I just wanted to, of course they left, but publicly thank the gentlemen that were here to update us on the bridges. Jeffersonville's going to be hopping with a lot of activity before too long, and I don't think a lot of people realize they're going to be doing some blasting, especially that east end, and I mean, we're going to have a lot of activity, so it's good for us to be abreast of all of that. And when we were here for the town hall meeting, we were sitting here, we were talking about the credit cards, and Ron Grooms said to the ones in attendance here that, our state leaders, they can't even, the state doesn't even buy them tablets to write on. Everything is out of pocket. So it kind of puts perspective in to us when you talk about what's being paid for in these credit cards, the spending here, where they can't even get a tablet to write on. So that's all I have.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
On that resolution, as soon as we get it scanned in tomorrow morning, I can go ahead and email, even though Amy will notify them too tomorrow in Board of Public Works.
Wednesday.
That's right, Wednesday. I can also go ahead and scan it and email it to all the department heads.
Just remind me, it needs to be presented to the mayor.
Yeah, after,
What is that? The resolution for credit card?
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not.
That was an ordinance.
No.
No. I thought you
But that's not,
be effective tomorrow.
No,
it's not going to be
Wait,
effective Wednesday.
it sounds-
Wait.
I don't have any
Are we
comment.
talking, no comment, are we talking about the credit card?
No, we're talking
Capital
about
expenditures.
Oh, the capital expenditures, okay, gotcha. Because I thought credit card, that's not the one. Okay, Councilperson Julius.
Good.
Councilperson Owen. I was thinking, I still have your mom's name in my phone. Sorry.
I just wanted to hit on again the Resolution 7 that we discussed. It seems to me that taking the unanimous support away from amending the agenda circumvents a minority. And it doesn't matter if the minority is one person, 4 people, or 3 people. That's in there. I think that was put in there wisely for a reason, and it's so that we're all aware of what's going on and information is shared freely. We had several other things on the agenda tonight that were on the agenda but weren't necessarily in the packet, but because we were all made aware that these things were coming up, we've all had conversations about it today and in the days before. I've had several conversations on all of these issues today. I'm just looking to have the information ahead of time. So, I know I said I would never move to amend the agenda. Maybe I should have said I hope I never have to move to amend the agenda. But if that's, something that comes up and it's, because we've all shared the information ahead of time, then certainly we can do that if we need to. I just wanted to reiterate my position, and it wasn't that I wasn't ready to pass the change today. It's that I will be against the change if it comes back up. I hope everybody understands my reasoning.
Councilperson Samuel?
I call it the JPAC, the Jeffersonville Public Art Committee. We continue to meet. We meet just about every other week. We are finalizing a request for proposal that will go out and to get an arts administrator, and I will keep you abreast on how that goes. Hopefully it'll be a very positive thing, and we'll be able to have an organized art program in Jeff that is ultimately self-sustaining through grants and other things. But just want to make you aware of that, and I will, once we have the final proposal, I'll make sure everybody sees that. We will go ahead and send that out, and then as we know what it takes to fund it, I will work on the funding mechanism for that at that time. With the idea, or it's been suggested, and I agree with that, we try to get a blend of funding through urban enterprise zone, potentially through redevelopment, and maybe through some funds the council controls that do not fall under the tax caps. The second thing is Matt, Owen, and myself met with two individuals from the homeless task force recently. It seems like they're very concerned about we heard about the construction on the bridges will be starting pretty soon downtown particularly, and right where the construction is going to go through, there are a number of homeless individuals that are camped, and they were letting us know that once those folks are removed from there, they're going to go somewhere, and they're going to remain downtown. They said, we know right where they're going to go. They're talking about the Big Four landing area. Then they also talked about how the Big Four bridge is basically an interstate sidewalk, if you will, from Kentucky, and services for the homeless are being cut in Kentucky. And he said they're going to come right across to a nice area in Jeffersonville, and we want to preempt that and try to make sure we have a plan in place. I say we, as community leaders, I hope we do, but then also they said that their task force is going to recommend trying to have a master plan on what to do, and they want to start that before the construction begins, because they said once it happens, the problem is going to rear its head. And I know the mayor will be involved with them and the task force, but I told them I'd bring that up, or we told them we'd bring that up to the council to let everybody just kind of have that on our radar. And then also told them once they have their more information from their task force, because we really hadn't heard much about it, that I'd invite them here to update us when appropriate. They need to have enough information together. So that's just more of an update than anything, and that's all I have.
Okay, and then I meant to have Les bring this up when he was talking about the paralegal, because we've all known about this, and I've been emailing people about his salary. We did get the information back from Liz Gross from Parkland HR Services, and on the first page, and I had this put in your packet this evening, it talks about different cities and legal departments and their salaries. Now, I do not know how big these cities are. I do not know how big Elkhart is, or it's 56,000. I'm just going to read this so everybody knows. Its legal department salaries are altogether is $320,000. The full-time corporation counsel is at $80,000. The deputy counsel is at $55,000. It has a utility attorney. That doesn't count here because basically Mr. Lewis is a sewer board attorney, and we do not have any other utilities. And I don't even know if sewer is considered I consider it a utility because because I have to pay it every month. And they have a full-time paralegal and a part-time redevelopment attorney at $55,000 and some additional contract attorney fees. Anderson, again, does anybody know how big Anderson is?
55,000.
55,000. Its legal department is $208,000, full-time corporation counsel, $80,000, 2 part-time deputy counsels, $39,000 each, and a part-time redevelopment attorney at $50,000. I'm telling you, the part-time redevelopment attorneys make really good money. Marion, $29,000, $209,000. Full-time corporation counsel is $71,000, 2 part-time deputy counsels $44,000 each, and a part-time redevelopment attorney, again, is $50,000, which must be the going rate if you're a part-time redevelopment attorney. Our minimum wage salary, Liz brought it back. The legal counsel, corporation counsel, and director of legal services would be a pay range 10 when we adopt, or if we adopt the new salary ranges. We did not have this in our old range. The minimum would be $76,667. The midpoint would be $103,500. I'm sorry, you'd like $500,000. It'd be $103,500. Yeah. And then the maximum would be $130,333. And this is with redevelopment legal work at .25 FTE is what it says. So
it's a 25% regardless of what the salary is, redevelopment obviously.
it says the job includes redevelopment commission legal work at .25. So evidently that's already in here.
Pay grade 15. It was in our...
Was it?
It's
Okay.
Pay grade 15.
Oh, I was told it was not in there.
No, it is, pay grade 15.
Okay.
I show it pay grade 10.
Well, this is the new one.
That's the old one, she's looking at the
What's
new
the old one? What's the pay grade?
$77,440 minimum, midpoint 96,800, and maximum 116,160.
Okay, 116, so that would be maximum.
But I think Liz was doing an evaluation based on where it would fit in
Under the new, with the one attorney rather than the 2, I believe, is what this was. So see, but I think under this one, corporation counsel, but we don't have like the, I don't know what that Tom was called, the other counsel's not in there. Do what?
He was called corporate counsel.
Corporate counsel. So anyway. Any suggestions?
Well, at some point, we're going to have to move forward on this decision. Well, you're going to have to adopt this. It has to be adopted into the salary ordinance, and, all that's going to have to go through the process.
Well, or we could go by the old one, which is already through the process, and then the midpoint, the minimum is 80,000, right?
The dollar amount has to go through.
Right, and we need to look at all that stuff that I sent you, that Liz made all of her recommendations, and we need to either have her come back and discuss it again, but we're going to have to get that finished up. We've dragged our feet on that, and we have got to get that cleared up and get that finished, completed. So what?
I'm in favor of mid-range at 103.5, just throw it out there and see what the thinks.
But is the mid-range 103.5, is that in the new study?
That's in the new study.
So we would have to adopt that whole new study.
No, because when it comes up, the old one is 100. It still fits even with the old one.
With that figure, it's in the range of our old...
Right.
Okay, I see what you're saying, okay.
But, Amy at some point has to put that in the salary and
Right.
make the adjustments at some point, but I just open that up.
Right.
So I don't know how long we want to talk about this.
I would like to get it taken care of because we've been talking about, just my personal opinion, we've been talking about this since Mr. Lau left. And I don't think it's fair to Mr. Merkley to keep this hanging out. So we either need to do it if we're going to do it or not do it if we're not going to do it. So
Make the motion
103.5?
103.5 and have Amy.
It'd be pay grade 15 at 103.5, because those haven't been adopted yet.
Right.
And
The
have
new
Amy,
one hasn't been adopted.
put
Right.
together for salary ordinance adjustments, and I guess possibly our next meeting. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further?
Can you explain that motion again?
Yeah.
To make it to 103.5, which is on the new ones,
Is the midpoint.
same dollar amount. But Amy's going to have to adjust our salary ordinance to reflect that change. So then that'll probably come back before us in our next meeting to show that change.
What would have to change on the salary ordinance?
Dollar amount.
Yeah, the dollar amount that's being paid
I'm
out.
not sure what he makes.
There is a dollar amount?
It'd be the same.
It's
Oh,
in
it's
the-
still in the range. Oh, it's still in the range.
It's still
Okay.
in the, it's in the mid-range
Yeah.
of the old,
Of the
current.
old,
the
yeah, the
existing.
current.
The ordinance,
And
the
of
ordinance
both of
doesn't have
them.
a dollar amount on it. It has the
I mean-
Well,
range.
the dollar amount
Middle.
doesn't matter.
It's in the range, so
I'll
it
make a
conforms.
motion.
That's 8,000 more than what I'm making now, and I'm doing twice the amount of work.
So when would that take effect?
I would think it should take effect immediately. Or do we want to go retro?
Well, at least, I mean, I don't know how hard it would be to do, how hard
I
it
don't-
would do, but at least the person runs. I don't know when Tom Lau actually left.
I think his
Well, I
day was
know.
like the 29th of
So April 1st.
March or something like that. I think his last day was the last Friday in March was the 29th or something like that. I can look him up.
Today before Good Friday. Thursday. Yeah, Thursday before Good Friday.
That's a motion.
March 29th was the last Friday in March. It was, yes, March 29th. That was, and I think he left on the 28th because 29th was Good
So
Friday,
let's-
correct?
Yes.
Right, so let's just say the 1st of April.
Okay, Vicki or Amy?
April 1st would
have
have, April 1st would have been the first working day.
Well, that's my question, because you're just raising the 8,000, correct? From what he's
Whatever the
making now, or are
difference
you doing this as general? Okay, the 103.5 is gonna be the total, which includes from his redevelopment fund.
Correct.
So
But I mean,
it's
the redevelopment is going to have to go up 25% of that increase, correct?
I think it's already included.
I've already paid 47.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, as long as if they have.
Doesn't the city, Les, the way that works, does the city bill redevelopment for that difference? No?
Yeah, I mean.
Right, so that will be taken care of.
You know, redevelopment portion will go down.
We'll go down? Okay.
They're already paying a total of 47.5.
You mean because Tom's not present?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments?
Did we decide on retroactive to when?
April
1st.
1st.
April 1st, okay. No comment.
Okay, no more? I have a motion to increase Mr. Merkley's salary to $103,500. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. We have a meeting with redevelopment on this Wednesday at 6 o'clock. I believe, is it in the mayor's conference room? Or is it here? Okay. It's a joint meeting. They may or may not be there. I would appreciate everyone please being there because we're talking about the plans that are going to be coming before us. So, anyway, I have nothing else. Does anybody have anything else? Any other meetings?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.